Heart of a Dog is a satirical novella written by Mikhail Bulgakov in 1925, set in post-revolutionary Soviet Russia. The story revolves around the bizarre experiment of a prominent surgeon, Professor Preobrazhensky, who transplants human organs into a stray dog named Sharik. The experiment leads to the dog transforming into a human-like creature, Sharikov, who embodies the worst traits of both man and dog. The novella offers a sharp critique of Soviet society, addressing themes of identity, the dangers of unchecked scientific experimentation, and the clash between nature and culture. The novella begins with a stray dog, Sharik, who is wandering the streets of Moscow, suffering from hunger and mistreatment. The dog provides the narrative's early perspective, offering a glimpse into the harsh conditions faced by the poor and the unwanted. One day, Sharik is taken in by Professor Preobrazhensky, a renowned surgeon and scientist known for his controversial work. Sharik is treated kindly, well-fed, and brought into the professor's luxurious apartment, a stark contrast to the dog's previous life. However, the kindness Sharik experiences comes with a hidden agenda. Preobrazhensky plans to perform an experimental operation on the dog, in which he will transplant human organs, a pituitary gland and testicles, from a deceased criminal named Klim Chugunkin. The professor's goal is to explore the possibility of transforming lower animals into humans, challenging the boundaries between species in an effort to enhance human life through science. After the operation, Sharik gradually begins to transform into a human, developing speech, walking upright, and exhibiting increasingly human-like behavior. However, the experiment goes awry as Sharikov, the human-dog hybrid, does not become the idealized, improved human that Preobrazhensky envisioned. Instead, Sharikov turns out to be vulgar, crude, and aggressive, adopting the worst traits of both human and animal. He becomes a representation of the morally and intellectually degenerate elements of society, particularly the type of person empowered by the Soviet regime's focus on elevating the working class without regard to merit or ethics. Sharikov soon becomes a problem for Preobrazhensky and his assistant, Dr. Bormenthal. He embraces the values of the new Soviet society, joining a workers' union, demanding rights, and attempting to take control of the professor's apartment. Sharikov's behavior reflects the social upheavals taking place in Soviet Russia, where people of lower social status are empowered by revolutionary ideals, often to the detriment of societal order and intellectual refinement. Sharikov's crude nature and sense of entitlement reflect Bulgakov's critique of the new Soviet man, a product of the regime's attempt to reshape human nature according to socialist ideals. As Sharikov becomes increasingly disruptive and dangerous, Preobrazhensky and Bormenthal realize that the experiment has failed. Sharikov is uncontrollable, selfish, and disruptive, embodying the chaos and vulgarity that Bulgakov saw as characteristic of Soviet society under the new order. In the end, Preobrazhensky decides to reverse the procedure, restoring Sharik back to his original canine form. The novella concludes with Sharik returning to a more peaceful, animalistic existence, while Preobrazhensky reflects on the hubris of trying to manipulate nature through science. Themes and ideas in the novel, Satire of Soviet Society, Heart of a Dog is often interpreted as a biting satire of Soviet society in the 1920s, particularly the social experiments undertaken by the Bolshevik regime to reshape society according to Marxist-Leninist ideals. Sharik's transformation into Sharikov symbolizes the Soviet project of creating the new Soviet man, an idealized version of humanity that would embody socialist virtues. However, the novella suggests that this project is doomed to failure, as the experiment with Sharik produces not a higher being, but a degenerate figure embodying the worst of both human and animal nature. Through Sharikov, Bulgakov critiques the idea of social engineering and the rapid elevation of the uneducated masses to positions of power in Soviet Russia. Sharikov's crude behavior, lack of moral compass, and sense of entitlement serve as a parody of the Soviet proletariat, who were often portrayed as the vanguard of the new socialist society. The novella highlights the absurdity and dangers of attempting to radically transform human nature through political or scientific means. The dangers of unchecked science and hubris. Professor Preobrazhensky represents the figure of the scientist who, driven by intellectual curiosity and ambition, engages in reckless experimentation without fully considering the ethical implications of his actions. His experiment on Sharrock is a clear case of hubris, as Preobrazhensky believes that he can control the natural world and improve upon it through his scientific knowledge. However, the experiment spirals out of control, leading to unintended and dangerous consequences. Bulgakov's portrayal of Preobrazhensky can be seen as a warning against the unchecked pursuit of scientific progress, especially when it is motivated by arrogance and a desire to dominate nature. The novella raises questions about the limits of science and whether it is ethical to manipulate life in such a way. Preobrazhensky's ultimate failure suggests that there are certain aspects of life that are beyond human control, and attempts to interfere with the natural order can have disastrous results. Culture. The tension between nature and culture is a central theme in Heart of a Dog. Sharrock, as a dog, represents the natural world, while his transformation into Sharrokov symbolizes the imposition of culture and society upon the individual. Sharrock's natural instincts, while crude, are relatively benign, but once he becomes human, he adopts the worst aspects of human society: greed, selfishness, and aggression. The novella suggests that certain elements of human nature are immutable, and that attempts to artificially impose culture or ideology upon individuals can result in a degradation of both. Sharrokov's failure to become a refined human being, despite the scientific intervention, underscores the idea that human nature cannot be molded according to utopian ideals. Instead, Bulgakov implies that nature will always assert itself, and attempts to subvert it, whether through science or ideology, are doomed to fail. Critique of revolutionary ideals. Bulgakov's novella can be read as a critique of the Bolshevik Revolution and its efforts to create a new society by erasing the past and elevating the proletariat to positions of power. Sharrokov, with his vulgarity and ignorance, is a metaphor for the negative consequences of the revolution's social upheavals, in which unqualified individuals were given authority based on class rather than merit. Sharrokov's aggressive behavior, his demand for rights, and his attempts to take over Preobrazhensky's apartment reflect the broader social dynamics of Soviet Russia, where the old order was being replaced by a new one that often disregarded cultural refinement and intellectual achievement. Preobrazhensky's frustration with Sharrokov can be seen as a reflection of Bulgakov's own disillusionment with the revolution and the direction in which Soviet society was heading. The professor's belief that some individuals are better suited to intellectual and cultural leadership than others stands in stark contrast to the egalitarian ideals of the revolution, and his ultimate decision to reverse the experiment suggests that attempts to impose equality through force or artificial means are futile. Identity and transformation. The theme of identity is central to Heart of a Dog, as Sharrock's transformation into Sharrokov raises questions about what it means to be human. Despite his human body and abilities, Sharrokov retains many of the base instincts and behaviors of a dog, suggesting that identity is not merely a matter of physical form, but also of inherent nature and experience. The novella explores the idea that true human identity cannot be artificially created or imposed, and that there are limits to how much an individual can be transformed by external forces. Sharrokov's identity crisis reflects the broader societal identity crisis taking place in Soviet Russia, where individuals were being redefined according to new political and social categories. The novel questions whether it is possible to create a new kind of person, as the Soviet regime attempted to do, or whether such efforts will always result in failure and chaos. Conclusion. Heart of a Dog is a rich and complex novella that offers a scathing critique of Soviet society, human nature, and the dangers of scientific hubris. Through the character of Sharrokov, Bulgakov satirizes the Soviet regime's attempts to reshape society and human nature, suggesting that such efforts are not only misguided, but potentially destructive. The novella's exploration of the limits of scientific progress, the tension between nature and culture, and the corrupting influence of power remains relevant to this day. At its core, Heart of a Dog is a warning against the dangers of attempting to control or alter human nature through ideology or science. Professor Preobrazhensky's failed experiment serves as a metaphor for the broader social experiment taking place in Soviet Russia, where the drive to create a new idealized society often led to unintended and harmful consequences. The novella suggests that human nature cannot be easily molded or improved upon, and that attempts to do so may only exacerbate the worst traits of humanity. Ultimately, Heart of a Dog reflects Bulgakov's skepticism toward both the revolutionary ideals of his time and the unchecked ambitions of science. The novella's humor, wit, and sharp social commentary make it a timeless work that continues to resonate with readers, offering a cautionary tale about the limits of human progress and the dangers of tampering with the natural order. Through its portrayal of Sharakov's rise and fall, Heart of a Dog captures the chaos and absurdity of a society in flux, where attempts to impose control and order often lead to unintended consequences and moral decay. Created for Squeeze That Book channel. Please subscribe to follow new videos and leave a comment with your thoughts about the book.